All In Sports Network. We love sports.
Coming to you from the land of Bristol and Unstable Blues.
Welcome back in. It's time once again to take a look at Colts players and their fantasy stats and projections in our Colts Fantasy Stable. So, let's go. All in Colts.
That's right. I'm Kevin. This is my son Liam, and we are the Unstable Blues. Happy to present All In Colts as part of the Rogue Media Sports Network.
Yep, I did not have the top hat this time. I figured it was just kind of a one-time thing. So
maybe it'll make its return. Maybe.
Colts Corner Bulletin. Almost forgot about that. I said read. And then I'm like, wait, hold on. Rigoberto Sanchez was named the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. So congrats to him.
As it should be. We've been toting on him all week on socials. Spencer Schrader was signed to the practice squad.
Yeah.
And then let go again. The Colts signed running back Savon Ahmed to the practice squad because of injury questions with Trey Sermon. Interesting. Yeah. I feel like Spencer Schrader is like that scene in Elf when Buddy the Elf just goes in the turnstile around and around the whole time. Like Spencer Schrader on the practice squad, not on the practice squad, dumped on the practice squad. Nope. He only got in the actual starters for the first week. And he did great. I don't understand why Trey Sermon is still around when he's doing 1.8, 1.6 a carry last game. I mean, the Colts dumped Dallas Flowers for one belly flop. I don't understand why he's still around. Let's just make it Evan Hall and forget the rest. I
think Evan Hall is probably thinking to himself, he's like, I'm right on the edge. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right. You're right there. I mean, you got elevated. You got to think, if JT can't go again this week, he's going to get elevated again. The other question is, why are we still pretending Matt Gay is the guy? Why?
I talked about it once at least already. There's a new generation of kickers being Brendan Aubrey, Jake Moody, Younghoe Koo, a couple other guys too that are young, really, really good at what they do. I think it's time that for once we follow a trend.
Yeah.
Once. I just think that, if anything, at least keep them on the practice squad because who knows, some point there may be a time later down in the season where Matt Gay misses a big kick right before playoffs and you're about to hit into playoffs and then you're like, we need a more consistent.
Right. You would hate for him to be in one of the times off the practice squad in the middle of there are a few needy kicker teams out there that what did I see? McManus, right? Just got picked up by the Packers, I think. They had a kicker. There are kickers getting injured, different places for different reasons. And you would hate for Spencer Schrader to have a reputation, be off the practice squad because you needed to fill another position and suddenly get picked up. And now you're left without. I mean, you already let McLaughlin go.
All right. Now it's time for personal fantasy updates. I'll go first, I guess, since I have 2 leagues. In school league, I won by 30-something points.
Your guy didn't do anything, right?
No, he did. It just the only way he could possibly win. I had my kicker on Monday night. I had Greg Serlin. For some reason, I have him in both leagues, which is kind of funny. But I had Greg Serlin in, and my opponent was I don't remember exactly, but he was 20-something points down. So theoretically, he could have still gotten it. And he had James Cook left. So I was like, okay, I think I have this. It's not necessarily secure. And then James Cook got hurt, and Gavin was my opponent. He just didn't switch him out. So got to be watchful for those type of things. And then other league, I squeaked out the win by 6 points. I was projected to get 140 or something like that. I got 106. Still got the win though. Win's a win, and I stay undefeated.
Yep, I beat your older sister by less than a point. I think this is my second win by less than a point, and I believe my second win of the season.
Really?
So
you're 2-4.
Yep.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yep. Run up against some stiff competition. Apparently made some calls that wasn't the wisest thing to do. But I got the win.
Need some help?
No, I don't need any help.
Okay. I mean, I'm undefeated over here, so clearly I'm doing something right. Maybe you need help in the draft. Maybe that's your problem. You just need to draft better.
But most of the draft, I've kind of like subbed out at this point.
Maybe that's your problem.
I don't think so.
I have picked up maybe one person.
People I subbed out were, I mean, only person I got rid of for sure that I drafted that was Garrett Wilson. That was maybe a questionable call.
I still have Garrett Wilson.
See, I just I went with
trading
the fact
capital.
That Aaron Rodgers likes to spread the ball too much, and now he's got Devontae. He doesn't need.
Yeah, Garrett is not a play now.
So I mean, my roster starting next week is Jaden Daniels, who I picked up after the fact. JC Dobbins, or J.K. Dobbins, who I picked up after the fact. Drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. Josh Downs, who I picked up after the fact. Tyreek Hill, who I drafted. You know I hate doing this. I hate having a player that is playing against the Colts.
Are you putting him in?
Well, my other choices are Darnell Mooney, who I picked up after the fact. Rashid Shaheed, who is out. And Xavier Worthy. And then Malik Neighbors, who may or may not play, is questionable. So I don't have him in there right now.
Malik's probably not going to play. He's still struggling with concussion stuff, as far as I've heard.
Yeah. So, I've got 2 players that are out that are no-go, and the rest are running back or tight ends. So,
yeah, I picked up a guy in the draft who some people questioned me for, and I was like, just you wait. I have Joe Burrow. This is my starting lineup. Joe Burrow, Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, Metcalf. I was debating between Metcalf and Evans. I might put Evans back in there, but he's just playing Baltimore, so it's a tough game for him. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I told you he's not going to do much. Yeah. That was my prediction. But I also left Bucky Irving on my bench, and I told you he's going to have a day. So, I don't know.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. Saquon Barkley is my flex, even though he should be a starting running back, but it's fine.
It doesn't matter.
I finally switched out the Jets defense because I think it was about time. I picked up the Bills defense. I have Greg Sirlin.
My defense was on a bye, and I took the opportunity to do what you do, and I picked up the Bengals because they're playing the Browns.
Yep. And then the person that people were questioning me about, who is actually doing phenomenal this year.
Yep.
Brock Bowers.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good call. It's a good call. Even more so now that there's a lack of a receiver out there, maybe.
Yeah. And that this team is, I've picked up.
What, Jacoby Myers is now the number one in for the Raiders?
Yeah. I have a couple friends who have Jacoby Myers already. Didn't have to trade for him or anything, so they're hoping to get some good value out of him.
Jacoby Myers has been a fan of the Raiders, and he played for the Raiders way back when he played for the Patriots.
Really?
Right? Isn't he the one that threw the pick? Now what? Remember toward the end of the 22 season, I believe?
Whenever they were against the Colts?
No. This was like, remember Mac Jones went for the tackle and remember this?
Yeah.
The end of the Vegas New England game was just it was really tight, and all of a sudden Jacoby Myers inexplicably threw a backwards pass that got picked off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he got picked up, and they were like, "Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
You'd be really good on our team. I think you're already on our team."
Yeah, but I've only picked up Chuba Hubbard, which I never thought the day I would have a Carolina Panthers person on my team, but he's been doing pretty good. I'm questioning to put him in over Kenneth Walker, maybe. Sorry, not Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon. But I think I'm going to keep Joe in there because he's been playing really well.
He was on the injury report, so keep your eye on that.
Yes. Anyways, okay. We are Colts podcast. Let's get to the Colts.
Sounds good. Right. Colts players and their stats and their projections, a little wonky because quarterback's up in the air, running back's up in the air. We're not exactly sure.
Yes, true. Joe Flacco this past week had 14 points. Obviously, that's slightly below average for a quarterback, but I don't know if anyone really put Joe on. Actually, can't say that. It's not terrible, but it's one of those things where same type of thing that like Lamar Jackson had the other week where he didn't do that great. I mean, he still put up fantasy points because he's Lamar, but he may not have done as much as other people did because he was doing what he needed to do to get his team to win because they don't care about parlays or fantasy points because, one, they're not allowed to do that stuff so that it doesn't become hero ball for football, which I really appreciate. Although I think NBA has a big problem with that, but we're not going to get into that. But his projection is up in the air right now. Because on fantasy, it says AR is the guy because he is healthy right now. As of right now, he is healthy status, good to go.
He was a full participant in practice. He was the only one listed on the injury report who was a full participant in practice.
Yep. Where it's kind of tough for JT. But speaking of AR, we will talk about him right now. As of right now, he's projected to get about 18 points. He has been that for the season pretty much. Because every week he has been a day-to-day basis. So he's always had a projection out. There's not been a guaranteed out until like the day of or the day before. Just kind of to keep teams guessing and stuff like that, which smart by Shane.
Yep.
Not really much else to talk about AR if he's playing, I don't see a reason not to put him in, but you do that at your own risk. There's a risk factor that comes with AR as we've seen this year. Always he's either really, really good like he was the first week, or he's not as great like he was the second week. Next up is MP. Okay, yep, sorry. I was about to say, stop me if you have anything else.
Okay, so if you have a quarterback, so like the London game is Trevor Lawrence, Drake May. What's the Thursday night game? I think it's the Broncos.
I think so, yeah.
Hold on. Looking it up. It is the Broncos and the Saints. So you're looking at another two rookie quarterbacks. So if you have Spencer Rattler and you have Anthony Richardson, do you go ahead and put Spencer Rattler in? Do you have Bo Nix? Do you put Bo Nix in instead of AR if you have both of them?
Bo Nix is a different question. We'll go off your Spencer Rattler thing, and then I'll address Bo.
Okay.
So if you have Spencer Rattler in your league,
you must have done that immediately.
You are in the type of league where you cannot afford to take a guess on a quarterback because that means you went so down far in the quarterback list to pick someone up. No offense to Spencer. The Saints offense just is not as good as it is, and there's so many injuries on that team as well.
Shaheed is out.
Spencer is not a smart decision.
Okay. Nix.
So Bo Nix is a different question because Bo Nix is someone, if you're in a bigger league, I would consider playing. He's on a rise. He has he's developing more as a passer. Obviously, it takes longer, and he is a mobile quarterback, as is Drake May and Jaden Daniels and all these other, and Caleb Williams and all these other rookies that came in this year. So there's just a mobile aspect that comes with younger rookie quarterbacks that you don't get in other quarterbacks. Like Josh Allen, yes, he runs. Same with Lamar, but they don't run as much as they did whenever they were in their earlier years. Not that they're old at all, but they just don't run as much as they did in the earlier years compared to the people that they do now.
Right now.
They're worth more money, and they've developed as a passer, and the rookies haven't necessarily done that yet. So they do what they can. In ways, Will Levis kind of reminds me of that as well. But that's kind of my thought about those. It's if you have an option, I mean, it's really just how you want to depict things. If you want to take a risk and risk not having points, or if you want to guarantee having some points, it's up to you.
Gotcha. Alrighty, on to the receivers.
Yes, Mr. Pittman last week had 12.5 points, pretty average. In wide receivers, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the season, he's pretty much guaranteed points if he's getting the ball. If he's getting touches, he is guaranteed fantasy points.
Once again, this is a situation where fantasy is not weighted to the situation because his touchdown was game-changing. His first down catch in the fourth quarter to keep the chains moving was game-changing. The way that he caught all three of those passes with guys draped all over him, the fact that he came into the game as, questionable, maybe on IR, all these things. Once again, fantasy points don't include all that, unfortunately.
Yes.
Because what he did in the way he did it, in the fashion he did it, was pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Way bigger than just 12.5 points, in my opinion.
Yep. And his projection is fairly similar to what he got this past week, being 12 points. And I'm going to skip two people. I'll come back to them.
Okay.
But I'm going to kind of piggyback off of Michael Pittman and say the reason his projection has dropped and his productivity has dropped was because of Josh First Downs, who this past week had 20 points. Great performance from him with another touchdown, I believe.
Yep.
And
he used one foot and the knee on the same foot.
Yep. First drive of the game.
Yep.
And his projection this week is 12 points. So pretty much similar to Michael Pittman. Looks like fantasy is finally catching up with stuff that, they're splitting the carries pretty much. They're splitting, although they may not have the equal amount of receptions. Like for JFD might have a bigger day, but less receptions compared to Pittman, who has 6 receptions and has grinded out all those for like 70 yards. Or Josh Downs has 4 catches for 80 yards or something like that.
Right. And who's going to end up catching the touchdown, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's more than likely one of them two, unless Alec Pierce gets thrown in there. And since I'm on Alec Pierce, let's just talk about him, just bouncing around everywhere right now.
I do have a question at some point. Go ahead.
Okay. You want me to finish the receivers then?
You go ahead.
Okay.
Finish the receivers. I'll ask you then.
Okay. Last week, AP had 0 points. Just didn't get the ball. He was a threat deep, which is, I'd imagine, Titans were trying to prevent that because guess who was the man last year against them in Tennessee? Alec Pierce.
Yep.
He got them down the field so that Pittman could score the game-winning overtime touchdown last year.
And he had one early in that game as well.
And he had an early touchdown. I'm like, okay, Alec Pierce, cool. This next week he's projected.
That's when you were not a believer then.
I am now though. This next week he's projected to get 5 points. I don't know whatever you want to do with that. Whatever you want to depict with Alec Pierce is always up in the air. He's gonna have a big game, a good game, or a bad game. He has shown capability of both, and which kind of puts me to the last person, Adonai Mitchell. Last week he had 3 points. obviously not that great. He got touches, he got targets. Looks kind of normal. He's giving up on sometimes, stuff like that. This next week, he's projected to get about 5 points. Once again, he hasn't shown me enough to get projected 5 points, honestly. So that's kind of where I am with all the receivers. Start Pittman, maybe if you're a bigger league, start him. Same thing with Josh Downs. If I had to choose one receiver to start, probably I would choose Josh Downs.
I got him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my question is, will Josh Downs, okay, and this has to do with the quarterback. Will Josh Downs see the same level of production if AR comes back? Because we saw an immediate change in Josh first downs whenever Flacco came into the game against the Steelers.
I think he will get the same reps just because AR is kind of on the sideline like, okay, Josh Downs can do stuff. And don't forget, they were in the parking lot of a hotel throwing balls back and forth. So they still have that chemistry. They came into the league at the same time. So they both are supposedly the offensive powerhouses of this of our team coming into that draft. And they both have shown that they are very capable of being an offensive powerhouse. Just they haven't necessarily shown it together. And if the next time AR plays, I wouldn't be surprised if they show that together, where AR has a good day and so does Josh Downs, and they kind of contribute to each other with that.
All right. Sounds good. That's what I wanted to know. Moving right along.
Jonathan Taylor's next. He didn't play this past week, obviously. He's looking better, though, from what I can see, looking better every day. He's put more weight on it. He's not limping now, which is really good. He's projected about, I think it was 19 points. So, obviously, if he's playing, start him. He's such a big deal to the offense. And I'm going to throw in one other person here. I don't know the exact stats, but Tyler Goodson. His style of run game, pass game is eerily similar to Jonathan Taylor, almost like he learned a little bit from it. He is a very productive and good running back in himself. Now, if JT is playing, I don't know how much touches he will get because if you have two of the same running backs, two of the same type of running backs, it's easier for the defense to make a game plan for that compared to, for example, the Jaguars have Etienne, who is more of an elusive back, kind of like JT is, compared to Tank Bigsby, which by his name suggests he's more of a tankier running back. Doesn't necessarily look the part, but he can get up to speed with the muscle that he has and, really get going. So obviously it's better or it's harder for defenses to make plans if you have two different types of running backs and then also AR in the backfield who can go out and run the ball, and then all the offensive wide receivers and tight ends that you have on top of that. So, but if JT doesn't play, I wouldn't be surprised if Goodson has a pretty big day. He's been on the rise. Not many people know. A lot of people are actually talking about Sermon. Don't know why. But Goodson has been, I think, in my opinion, the number one with JT being out.
Yeah, I'm so if you're in a bigger league, you would maybe look at going and betting on the offensive line for the running back in that situation. The style and the offensive line combined with Miami's defense is not that great by the numbers against the run. So you're kind of weighing all of those options and going, okay, if I'm in a bigger league, meaning I forget what week it was, but 1 week last year, I will always reference this any chance I get. The top 2 Eagles running backs were out, and they pulled, who was it? I can't remember. They pulled like the 3rd string guy that nobody ever heard of, and I had just heard it, and I looked at the Eagles offensive line, and I looked at whoever they were playing that week, and I went, let's do it. Let's just do it. Because I had one like DeAndre Swift or something like that. And so I went, sweet, let's do it. And I just totally flipped it and scored me like 30 some points because he just ran all over, thanks to all of those things that I had mentioned. So,
yeah, definitely a viable decision.
Defense then?
Defense had 5 points this past week. Pretty average as well. This past week my defense had 1 point. The Jets defense was kind of sad. I was just happy they didn't lose me points. But there was 1 point where my points exactly were 106.62, and my opponent's was 100.6. So I was like, and I hope my defense loses 6 points right now so I can win by 0.02. That would be hilarious. But it was in the 4th quarter, so I was like, there's no way my defense loses that many points. I don't think there's a possibility, because the only way your defense loses points is if they give up a ton of yards and a ton of points.
Yep.
Which 5 points isn't terrible. It's kind of a normal defensive performance. You kind of want that 5 to 8 point range. So it's on the lower end, but still not a bad performance. This next week, they're projected to get 6 points. Don't know why they keep giving them 6 points. I think that's just kind of how the defense is. The better defenses get a 7.7, 7.8 projection, and the worst defenses get 6 points, 5.9, something like that. So obviously we are on the lower end of defenses. I won't deny it. So I wouldn't assume playing them. We're also playing the Dolphins, which who knows? Dolphins are just completely up in the air right now. Devon Achane, don't even know if he's playing. He's kind of another toss-up for me. I'm keeping my eye on him for fantasy. And we'll
talk more about that game tomorrow.
Yes, we will. You have anything else to add to all this stuff?
Well, one thing you said reminded me of a situational dad joke. You ready? Since I am your dad. If you had won, 0.02, that would have been your 2 cents. That is it for today. We'll be back tomorrow, like I said, end week. Our preview of the Dolphins going to Indy on Dallas Clark Day, as he'll be inducted into the Ring of Honor. We will give you our keys to the game, matchups to watch, and our prediction. So we will see you tomorrow.
This is Liam.
And this is Kevin.
Reminding you to stay all in Colts.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.